Have you ever lain awake at night, wondering what happens when life fades to black? Is there a glorious reunion with loved ones, a cold emptiness, or a moment where every secret of your heart is laid bare before a holy God? The question of what lies beyond death grips us all, whispering both hope and dread. The Bible doesn't dodge this mystery, it confronts it head-on, revealing a day when every soul will face God's judgment, a reckoning that separates eternity's light from its shadow. From Jesus' parables to the visions of Revelation, Scripture unveils a truth that's both urgent and redemptive. If you've ever pondered your place in eternity or felt the weight of life's choices, this exploration will draw you in and point you to a hope that pierces the unknown. Let's uncover the biblical truth about what happens after death and how God's judgment shapes our forever. The Bible speaks with clarity. Death is a doorway, not a dead end. Ecclesiastes 12:7 says, "The dust returns to the ground it came from, and the spirit returns to God who gave it." But what happens next? Jesus taught that death leads to a moment of accountability. In Matthew 16:27, he said, "The Son of Man is going to come in his Father's glory with his angels, and then he will reward each person according to what they have done." This judgment isn't arbitrary, it's rooted in God's perfect justice, weighing every thought, word, and deed against his holy standard. One of Jesus' most haunting stories, the parable of the rich man and Lazarus, Luke 16:19-31, pulls back the veil on the afterlife. A rich man basking in wealth ignored Lazarus, a beggar covered in sores at his gate. Death came for both, but their paths diverged. Lazarus was carried to a place of comfort, resting with Abraham. The rich man landed in a realm of torment, his cries for mercy echoing across an impassable gulf. Desperate, he begged Abraham to send Lazarus with a drop of water or to warn his family. But Abraham replied, "They have the scriptures, let them listen." This story isn't about money, it's about the heart. The rich man's self-centered life led to eternal regret, while Lazarus's humble faith opened the door to peace. Scripture paints judgment with vivid strokes. In Revelation 20:11-15, John saw a great white throne where the dead stood before God. Books were opened, one recording every deed, another the book of life. Those whose names were not found in the book of life faced the second death, cast into a lake of fire. This isn't cruelty, it's the consequence of rejecting God's offer of life. Jesus warned in Matthew 7:13-14, "Wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it." The choice is stark, but it's ours to make. What happens immediately after death? The Bible suggests a temporary state before the final judgment. Believers enter God's presence, a foretaste of heaven. Paul longed to depart and be with Christ, which is better by far. Philippians 1:23. The thief on the cross, turning to Jesus, heard, "Today you will be with me in paradise." Luke 23:43. For those who reject God, there's a place of anguish, like the rich man's Hades, awaiting the final verdict. Psalm 139, verse 8 assures us, "If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there." God's presence is everywhere, but in judgment, it's either joy or justice. How can a loving God judge? Because he is holy and sin cannot stand in his light. Romans 3:10 declares, "There is no one righteous, not even one. Yet God's love doesn't leave us condemned." John 3:17 says, "God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him." Jesus' death on the cross absorbed the punishment we deserve, offering forgiveness to all who trust him. Ephesians 2:8-9 reminds us, "It is by grace you have been saved, through faith, and this is not from yourselves, it is the gift of God." The cross is the narrow gate, the way to life. The parable of the talents, Matthew 25:14-30, shows how God judges our stewardship. A master entrusted servants with talents, rewarding those who use them well and judging the one who buried his out of fear. God doesn't demand perfection, but faithfulness with what he's given us: time, gifts, opportunities. The lazy servant's fate warns us. Neglecting God's call leads to loss. Yet the story of the prodigal son, Luke 15:11-32, shows God's heart. A father runs to embrace his repentant child. No matter how far you've strayed, God's arms are open if you turn back. Why does this matter now? Because eternity hinges on today. Jesus' parable of the rich fool, Luke 12:16-21, who hoarded wealth only to die unprepared, ends with a sobering call. This is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves but is not rich toward God. Every heartbeat is a gift, a chance to align with God's purpose. Isaiah 55:6 urges, "Seek the Lord while he may be found. Call on him while he is near." The thief on the cross found grace in his final hour. But why risk waiting? For us, the mystery after death is a wake-up call. If you're searching, Jesus is the answer. If you're burdened by sin, his grace is enough. If you know him, share his love. Someone needs to hear it. 1 Corinthians 15:55 taunts death. Where, O death, is your sting? Because of Jesus' resurrection, believers face judgment with confidence, knowing their names are in the book of life. Here's my challenge. Reflect on your eternity this week. Write down one thing keeping you from God, guilt, pride, or distraction, and pray, "Jesus, I trust your grace to lead me home." Act on it. Read Luke 16, pray for forgiveness, or tell someone about God's love. Your voice could change their forever. If you're unsure, reach out to a friend or pastor. Don't face the mystery alone. Let's close with Jesus' promise in John 11:25. "I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die." The mystery after death is real, but so is God's love. Choose Jesus, live for him, and step into an eternity where judgment gives way to joy. Subscribe and turn on notifications for inspiring Bible stories and faith-filled wisdom. Comment below. How did this story touch you? Your words can inspire others. Share this video to spread God's hope. Stay tuned for more soul-stirring truths and keep trusting as God's love leads you.